Alrighty, folks. So meanwhile, Bill Burr, who's just on like his wokeism tour now, he used to, it's sad. I mean, again, I was a Bill Burr fan. I've paid for his shows. Like I literally paid to go see him at Hard Rock down here in Florida. And I'll repeat, he sucked so bad he walked off the stage in anger after the audience was totally unresponsive to his woke jokes. He just continues, to torch himself. So first, he suggested that Luigi Mangione, who is a murderer, he's an alleged murderer, Luigi Mangione, of a United Healthcare CEO for the great crime of being the CEO of a healthcare company of which Luigi Mangione was not a client. And Bill Burr defended that because he hates billionaires so much. And, he just continues down this path. So here he was yesterday torching conservatives because how can we be outraged over the Snow White remake? Dude, your entire brand is outrage over random. That's literally what Bill Burr does for a living. Have you seen his comedy? It's funny. Like, seriously, it's funny. And by the way, so is making fun of Snow White. It's funny. I'm sorry that the Snow White movie sucked, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry at all that we forced, basically, as a company, Daily Wire forced Snow White into production again. It was supposed to come out like a year and a half ago. And then we went after them so hard because of their variety of ridiculous sins that they actually went into full-scale reshoots on Snow White when we announced that we had a competitor of Snow White that was coming out. Anyway, Bill Burr is very angry with those of you who think that Snow White sucked and are making fun of Snow White.
For conservative people to act like they're not the biggest babies also is hilarious. Have you seen this? My people, Whitey, we're all upset. There's enough of us to get it going, trending anyway. We're upset about the new Cinderella movie. The actress playing Cinderella isn't white. There's no prince. They changed the story. What am I going to tell my kids? That my people get upset about. What am I going to tell my kids? Well, talk around it the way you do we talk around the real history of this country.
Okay, you mean that all of us making fun of them recasting Snow White as a not white person when it's literally in the character description, that's a great sin? Like that's his suggestion of conservative sin? This is a dude who does comedy about the airline boarding processes. There's no one whinier in comedy than Bill Burr, which is fine. He's funny, or he used to be. But now it's like, oh my God, whoa, the conservatives making fun of Snow White. Okay, first of all, if you think that Snow White is like eating up much mental space for us here on the right, it's not that Snow White was eating mental space. It was a fun way to dunk on Disney. That is the reality. We were doing the same thing to Disney that Bill Burr does to the airline boarding process. But Bill Burr can't tell anymore because, again, he has unfortunately had his sense of humor surgically removed in some sort of way. He is now trans humor, which is unfortunate because, again, I think that the original Bill Burr was simply better. Meanwhile, controversy continues over President Trump's immigration plans. Trump can't stop and will not stop with regard to the deportations. According to the Washington Post, the Trump administration has transferred 17 alleged gang members to El Salvador, the second such removal in 2 weeks, as the president pushes forward with his plan to send migrants to a notorious jail in Central America, despite mounting concern over whether he can lawfully do so. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Monday a military plane flew the alleged Tren de Aragua and MS-13 gang members to El Salvador on Sunday evening in what he described as a counterterrorism operation. And those migrants included 10 Salvadoran and 7 Venezuelan men who were previously being held at Gitmo. We'll get to more on this in a second. First, unfortunately, in this country, privacy has now become a luxury. To be honest, that's a shame because privacy should be a prereq to freedom. Without privacy, there isn't freedom. Privacy is given to the government, but it's no secret the NSA is surveilling us. They are buying your information from data brokers. They're watching the moves you make online. What if I told you there was a way to stop that transaction? What if I told you there's a way to get your privacy and freedom back? You can do it with a product called ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN is an app that sends 100% of your online activity through secure encrypted servers. That means data brokers can't see anything you do online. Their customers, government agencies, big tech companies can't access those logs either. I've been using ExpressVPN for years. Every time I go to the airport, every time I'm at a hotel, if I'm on public Wi-Fi, my data is now exposed, but now with ExpressVPN, because with ExpressVPN, none of your online activity is logged. Just within the last 12 months, ExpressVPN received over 400,000 data requests from tech companies and government agencies. You know how many of their customers' information was shared? zero because ExpressVPN has a strict zero logs policy giving you back your privacy. Plus, ExpressVPN is easy to use. It only takes one click. It works on all your devices. You can have it on up to 8 devices at once, protecting your whole family. Find out how you can get 4 months free by scanning the QR code on screen, clicking the link in the description box below, or by heading on over to expressvpn.com/Ben Shapiro Show. That's expressvpn.com/Ben Shapiro Show. Meanwhile, controversy again has broken out over the case of this supposed Maryland father. That's how he was described by The Atlantic. Was this guy actually a member of MS-13? An immigration judge said there was credible evidence that he was some 6 years ago. Caroline Leavitt was asked about this particular story, as we talked about yesterday in The Atlantic, about a supposedly innocent Salvadoran immigrant who had a stay on his removal because theoretically he was going to be tortured in El Salvador if he went back. And the administration made an administrative error and deported him, and now they can't get him back. Here's Caroline Leavitt saying, well, it's an administrative error. That doesn't mean the guy should be in the United States.
The error that you are referring to was a clerical error. It was an administrative error. The administration maintains the position that this individual who was deported to El Salvador and will not be returning to our country was a member of the brutal and vicious MS-13 gang. That is fact number one. Fact number two, we also have credible intelligence proving that this individual was involved in human trafficking. And fact number three, this individual was a member, actually a leader of the brutal MS-13 gang, which this president has designated as a foreign terrorist organization. Fact number four is that foreign terrorists do not have legal protections in the United States of America anymore.
Okay, and she is right about all of those things, presumably. More evidence to show who this guy was would obviously help the administration's case. But as we mentioned yesterday, The Atlantic kind of ignored a huge part of the story. Meanwhile, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is ordering diplomats overseas to scrutinize social media of applicants for student and other types of visas, basically saying you don't get in the country if you hate the West, which seems, pretty fair. Seems like a good way to screen out people who should not be in the United States in the first place. Like if you're here spreading pro-terrorist content, what exactly are you doing in the United States? We don't need more of you. So Secretary of State Rubio is pursuing that. Meanwhile, Democrats taking the wrong side of an 80-20 issue, as always. Representative Jamie Raskin, he's demanding the return of illegal immigrants.
I call on them to demand that the Trump administration comply with all judicial orders while appealing whichever ones they want to appeal, and to demand the return of people unlawfully taken to El Salvador on that so-called plane full of gangbangers.
And this is going to make an easy commercial for Republicans. Democrats claiming that we need more people who are suspected or have credible evidence of ties to MS-13 or Tren de Aragua re-entering the United States to make Jamie Raskin feel better about his life. Okay, time for the Ben Shapiro Show mailbag. Joe says, hey, Ben, I hear a lot of people saying district court judges shouldn't be able to put a stay on Trump's policies. Aren't district courts the starting point in the federal court system? If they can't put stays on federal policies, what is the proper way to challenge a policy that is believed to be unconstitutional? So, there's a difference between putting a stay on a national policy and ruling in favor of plaintiff in particular case. So typically, before 1960, the way a federal court at a district level might adjudicate a constitutional question would be to say, in this case, you are not allowed to, for example, deport this person. You cannot deport anyone because the entire policy is unconstitutional. That would have to go all the way up to the Supreme Court to adjudicate. That was the way that it was done until about 1960. Then you started having district court judges asserting the power to issue national temporary restraining orders on national policy. That's the controversy over what district court judges can do. Ryan says, I'm a 30-year-old single male Christian listener who's not religious. I do, however, respect religion greatly and hope to raise my family in faith one day. However, I have no true interest in going to church on Sundays at the current time. I was wondering if you had any advice on places I could go outside of church to meet women my age who share my beliefs and conservative values. Obviously, there are places like bars and clubs. I doubt that's where the type of women I'm interested in marrying would be. Well, I mean, obviously, there are, in fact, political events. Friends and family are the best way still to meet people. They know you. They know prospective matches. And that is still the number one way that people meet good life partners, spouses, and all the rest, is to have people fix you up on a one-to-one level. As far as other places, think of places that are likely to reflect the values that you cherish. Obviously, if you're looking for a person with sort of traditional values, you're not likely to go clubbing. Clubbing is not where you're likely to find that person. There might be other places, charitable events, where you could find somebody who is not necessarily overtly religious, but does share many of your beliefs. Well, that's all for now, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts down below. Be sure to check out all of the other great content on my channel. I'll see you here next time.